Hi everyone, Phil from Tech for Techs here. Today we're going to be looking at this. It's the Thermaltake ToughPower Grand Series RGB power supply. Okay, so let's take a look at this. As you can see, we've got the Thermaltake ToughPower. It's the Grand Series. It is a power supply. It's a 750 watt RGB. So you can see on there it's compatible with your like MSI, GIGABYTE, ASUS motherboards with the RGB function. It is an 80 plus, which means it's very efficient, so you're not wasting as much power and energy and so forth, so it saves you money and it's better on the environment as well. You've got the RGB information there, it's 256 colours. Bear in mind RGB is on the fan, so depending on how you've got it positioned in your case, or if you've got a shroud over the power supply in the case, depends on if you're going to actually see the RGB or not. You can actually turn the RGB off if you want. If you haven't got an RGB connector on your motherboard, it does have a switch on the back of the box, or should I say the back of the power supply, where you can actually do it manually, but it will actually connect up to your controller on your motherboard if you have one. You've got the Smart Zero fan, low ripple noise, fully modular, and it's flat cabling, so it should look pretty nice. 100% Japanese capacitors, and it's got that amazing 10-year warranty. Let's have a quick look at the side. So on that side it gives you a bit more information about all the RGB bits. On the back it gives you a little bit more information on there. So you've got information about the 80 plus gold certified efficiency, ultra quiet smart fan, which basically means the fan will run at a really low speed or even off until it gets to a certain load when it actually needs to kick in. You've got your low ripple noise design, which again makes it nice and quiet, and it's got extremely strict voltage regulation on there as well. It also tells you all the different connectors, what it comes with, and all your different voltages and everything on there. It's pretty much got every single bit of information I think you'd need on there. The only thing I don't see on there is anything mention of how long the cabling is, unless it's in really small print. But on here it tells you it comes with one 24 pin motherboard connector. It comes with one 12 volt, that's a 4+4 pin connector for the CPU / motherboard. It's got 9 SATA connections on there. You've also got on there 4 PCI Express 6+2s. You've got 4 of your peripheral connection, or Molex connection as they call them. It does actually come with a floppy connector if anyone still uses them. And then you've got your RGB sync cable, which is to connect up to your motherboard if you wish to control the RGB lighting. Be a first if I ever saw anyone with RGB lighting and a floppy drive in the same machine, but well, it'll be an interesting one to see. Again, on the other side, more information about the RGB on there, so you can see there, so you can have different colour LEDs and so forth. So that's pretty much it. Bottom's got all your different languages and so forth. But otherwise, looks pretty good. Okay, here we go. So let's open this up. Standard box, pretty straightforward. Looks like the first thing we come to is, yeah, your product warranty. That bit's in English, the other bits are in different languages. So you've got that there if you need it. You've got your manual. I'm guessing this will be one page English, yeah, and the other pages are different languages. But in basics it tells you all about it there. It's a multi-product manual, so this covers the 750 watt as well as the 650 watt and the 850 watt one, and again these may have different amount of connections, which they actually do, which is all the information is on there. But it also tells you how to set your RGB up and stuff like that. So let's have a look. We've got a nice bag inside here. Nice bit of Velcro. Here we go. So inside there you've got your power cable. You've got your different connectors. As you can see, they are flat cables, as they call them, because, well, they're flat. But as you can see there, they are black all the way, so there's no multicoloured ends, nice and black, so nothing saw standing out. So I'm guessing we've got more of these. Yeah, everything in there is the same, with the exception of the SATA connections. Should I say, sorry, the PCI Express connections. So these are your 6+2s. The red on the ends, I'm not sure why a lot of places do that. I know they do it possibly so you don't get mixed up, but generally if I'm wanting black cables and everything in black, I want it all in black. I don't want these red bits on the end, so everything matches in. I don't go out and go, right, I want to buy a power supply and everything's black but the PCI Express bits have to be red. No, I would want everything black. So why they do that, I'm not sure. It does say on each one what they are for, so if you are struggling and you're not sure where they connect to, it does actually tell you. Okay, we've also got the connector which will connect you up from the power supply to your motherboard. Again, this is standard RGB, this isn't ARGB or addressable digital, it's standard RGB connection. So most motherboards, if you do have ARGB, do also have RGB as well, so you should be alright, but just bear that in mind. Let's have a look inside. So the power supply itself is nicely packed up in this foam, and then it's nicely wrapped in this piece of cloth with a Thermaltake on there. It's not actually a bag, it's just a cloth strip. So let's just move that out of the way. It's got a nice bit of weight behind it. Let's have a look. You've got all your power supply, obviously, information on there, which would actually, if you get it set up how they want you to set it up, that would be on the bottom, so the actual power supply would sit that way up. On the side, you've got your RGB, 750 watts, tells you everything there, what it is. And also, on the back, you've got your power switch, you've got your smart fan on there, so that's where it turns the fan on and off, and you can adjust the RGB. So just to recap that, you've got your on and off there, which is for the Smart Zero fan, so you can either tell the fan to continue spinning all the time, or you can let it control itself and turn itself off if and when needed. You've got your power switch, pretty straightforward, and you've got your RGB lighting button there. You do have a cover over there for your power. On this sticker it says Smart Zero fan on. The fan does not operate if the PSU is at a low load, and off means the silent fan operation. Okay, so that's all there. Otherwise, either side looks basically the same. Depends on which way you're wanting to mount it. But generally, if you've got that in your machine, that would be the back. You'd have that at the bottom of the machine, and then the fan would light up towards the inside. Traditionally, on most cases these days, you would have it up that way, so you wouldn't actually see the LED lights. So you would want to position it that way up so you can see it, but obviously that's going to affect your airflow in the machine slightly, because it's going to start sucking air from inside the machine through the power supply and out of the back, rather than using the venting on the bottom, which, depending on the way you got it, probably won't make a huge difference, if anything at all, and could it actually benefit it, depending on what your airflow is like inside there. The connection wise, as you can see, again, everything's black apart from the the PCI Express connectors. I'm not sure why they do that. There must be some reason, but I'd like to see everything black. Again, you've got your 20 plus 24 pin connection there, your 4+4 for your CPU, what goes obviously on the motherboard, and then you've got your peripherals, which is your SATA and Molex and even floppy connection on there. You've got your sync connection, so that's where you'd stick your RGB cable into there, what should I say, into there, like that, and then you would connect it up to your motherboard. You've also got the option for off and on for the RGB sync as well. But otherwise, it's quite heavy, nice looking. We'll take out a look at everything in a few seconds. We'll get the measurements for you. Okay, let's have a look at the measurements. I'm guessing this is a standard size power supply. It's going to be about 16 centimeters long. Yes, it is. It's 16 centimeters long. The width is 15 centimeters, and I'm guessing it's about 8.5 wide. Yeah, so around about 8.5 wide, so that's your traditional power supply size, so there's nothing you really need to worry about it fitting inside your machine there. Let's have a look at the cables. Let's have a look at these PCI Express ones. So that's what you would have in your graphics card. That's the end what will go into the power supply. So measuring the cable from the connection comes out to the first one around about 48 centimeters, but then you've got the second connection, and between the first and the second one, again connectors, we're looking at around about 14 centimeters, so you should have enough room there to connect up your graphics cards, no problem. Let's check the RGB cable. So the RGB cable comes in at just over 50 centimeters to the first connection, and then there's about another 8 centimeters between the first and the second connection. That's if obviously you're linking up multiple devices to it, so you're sort of daisy chaining it as effect. This is your 8-pin, or your 4+8, which will go in your power supply. Will go from the power supply into your CPU area on the motherboard. This works out, if I'm right, yeah, that works out roughly around about 70 centimeters. So that's pretty much higher than most machines. So you should have no issue fitting that and having issues with the cable in there. Let's have a look at the 24-pin connection. These are usually a bit shorter, but we'll have a look. So again, we're looking at roughly around about 60 centimeters for your 24-pin connector. It is actually a 20 plus 4, which makes it 24, but I don't know anyone who uses the 20s these days. But it does have that double connection on the end what goes into the power supply, so rather than being one block going into the power supply, basically you'd fit one there and then the other part of it would go in there. One thing I would have been nice to see is this bit looking a bit tidier. It looks a bit of a mess, in all honesty. And you can see it doesn't look very tidy, so you've got that going in through your machine. It's not the tidiest looking, to be honest. They could have done something with that, where the cables were joined together a bit more, so that bit looked a bit nicer. I can understand why they've got them split in, because A, it goes on 2 connections, and it's probably easier for you to hide the cables behind the case, but it would have been nice to have at least that bit all as one bit and it to look nice. It just looks a little untidy, and I think that's just a slight afterthought there, is in they made it all look really nice and then that bit looks just messy, if you ask me. But there you go, so that's the basics there. We'll get it plugged in and give it a bit of testing and see how it goes. Okay, we've got the Thermaltake power supply connected up to our Thermaltake tester. It's basically a Toughpower 2. This is designed to check all the voltages and stuff like that. So let's turn it on and it'll tell us all the settings on here. There we go. You'll probably see the RGB lightings come on as well. So basically the 5 volts on here is running at 5. The 12 volt line is running at 11.9, which is still acceptable. 3.3 on the 3.3, 12 on the 12 and 5 on the 5. So basically all the settings is running exactly how it should, and that's probably one of the closest things we've ever seen on the tester to come in dead on the actual what it should be. So that's actually pretty good. Regarding the RGB lighting, you can see the lighting here on the actual fan. If I just turn it back on, because the tester turns off after a few seconds, you do have a switch on the back where you can choose the different colouring. So you can have it cycling, red, blue, green or whatever, but remember, if you have a motherboard what has got RGB connectors on it, you can connect it directly up to your motherboard and let the controller on the motherboard operate the lighting. Okay, and here's the conclusion. There are many fully modular power supplies on the market in the 80+ Gold range. Some of these are priced lower, some higher. When I sat back and looked at the test results, the fact that this one is RGB and the efficiency and the presentation when we unboxed it, mixed with the guts to include a floppy connection, well, I had to give it an old thumbs up for value for money. This is a great power supply. I was really impressed with it. When the only thing negative I can really find about it is that the ends of the connections for the PCI Express connectors and the ports on the power supply have been red rather than black. That's saying a lot. I highly recommend this product. The standout point of this power supply was the fact that it's got RGB, and there's not many on the market what actually do. Other pros are no multicolour wires, as in there's none of this daft shrouding what goes all the way up to the end and leaves all the yellow and red and different coloured cables showing at the end, which you get on a lot of power supplies. The actual cables were flat as well, so that's good for obviously cable management and airflow. You've got the RGB that we've already mentioned. It's actually value for money because there's not many power supplies what are actually cheaper and actually have all these capabilities like the RGB, the 80+ Gold and so forth. It performed well in tests, probably the best performance we've got in the actual testing. The outer box looked actually pretty good, so it stands out from the competition, and the unboxing presentation of the product was awesome as well. On the negative side of the things, you've got the red on the end of the PCI Express cables, and also you've got the red on the actual connector on the power supply where you plug in the PCI Express, and maybe just the tidying up of that 24-pin connection, it just looks a little bit messy on the end. But overall, I'm happy to award this product the Tech4Tech's Platinum Award as well as the Tech4Tech's Gamer's Choice Award. Thanks for watching this video all the way to the end. Don't forget to press the subscribe button over here. That way you'll get all the latest news and all the reviews we do on a weekly basis. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.